They might seem cute, helpless, and charmingly innocent. Or they can look fierce, weird, and downright creepy. In the world of extreme animals, meet the babies. This little chap is a proboscis monkey infant. Native only to the Indonesian island of Borneo, proboscis babies spend much of their time hanging out in the trees with mum. Proboscis monkeys are so called because of the adult's pendulous nose. Yep, Dad's a catch all right. With a pronounced pot belly, he honks like a cabbie stuck in traffic. And has a nose so long, it beats out double time when he eats. But as far as females are concerned, the bigger, the better. The more supersized the male's nose, the more successful they'll be when it comes to mating. While it might not be as big as Dad's, baby proboscis are born with a nose for danger. Because wherever mum goes, they're along for the ride. It's a long way down, but that doesn't seem to bother mum one bit. And proboscis babies aren't the only tree-dwelling tots on a terrifying tour of the jungle canopy. Borneo is also home to orangutans. Their young are carried everywhere until they're at least 2 years old. And they better hang on because mum, she's got some moves. Orangutans are highly skilled at swinging through the trees. And they're also risk-takers. One study suggests more than a third have broken major bones, and falls from over 20 meters are common. But proboscis monkeys are even more daring than their hairy, ginger neighbors, because they don't just swing, they leap, and not just from tree to tree. Of all monkeys, proboscis have the most aquatic lifestyle, and, having evolved webbed hands and feet, are the primate world's most avid swimmers. Yet their high diving, well, it could use a little work. Ooh, that's got to sting. As for baby, well, before Junior can squeal, "Are we there yet?" Smackdown. And if being on the wrong side of a colossal monkey belly flop isn't enough of an adrenaline rush, then there's the crocs. While mum and baby have climbed to safety this time, not all cross the river so nimbly. And there's a high price to pay. Clinging to your high-diving mum is brave, but the next extreme daredevil baby makes a leap of faith, all on their lonesome. North American wood ducklings begin life like any other duck. But unlike most, wood ducklings are born in tree nesting cavities, which can be more than 15 meters above the ground. The good news? The ducklings are well out of the way of ground and river-dwelling predators. The bad? they must follow Mother Duck down to the river or face starvation. Worse still, the ducklings will leap within 24 hours of hatching, well before they can fly. Equipped with little more than flightless wings and a fearless disposition, this little fluff ball flings herself into the void. One by one, her siblings take the plunge. Cannonballing into shallow water isn't usually a great idea. But wood ducklings can survive falls of over 14 meters. And this lot are the lucky ones. They got to jump into water. Some wood ducklings are born over a kilometer from the water's edge, and they face a much harder landing. It's spring in eastern Greenland, and barnacle geese have arrived to breed. They are true lovebirds and couple up for life. All very romantic. What's going to make you feel a little bit less gooey inside is the deadly rite of passage barnacle goslings endure in their first days of life. Barnacle geese don't feed their goslings, and their cliff-top home is barren of the vegetation they must eat to survive. The nearest greenery is in the river valley more than 120 meters below. What happens next is hard to believe. Goslings are still weeks from being fully fledged and capable of flight. But with little hesitation, their tiny wings outstretched, they leap from the cliff. With just a light covering of down to cushion the jarring impacts, the goslings bounce their way down the cliff face like a car crash you just can't stop watching. Although wince-inducing, the more times the chicks bounce, the greater their chance of survival. The direct route down? Yeah, not such a great idea. But this gosling's a little trooper, emerging unscathed. Around 1 in 5 goslings don't survive the 120-meter plunge, so it may not be lucky last for the remaining hatchling. But this feathered fiend spits in the eye of statisticians, and off he goes. A steady, controlled descent. Bit of a bump to break the fall, and another. Ooh, and a nice patch of grass to land on. Happy days. But he isn't clear of danger just yet. Having abandoned their clifftop advantage, the goslings are now in the realm of the Arctic fox. All the adult geese can do is hope to distract the fox and lead it away from a feast of tenderized gosling. Three of the chicks make it to the edge of the boulder field. They're safe, but the last gosling to jump perishes in the jaws of the fox. Honey badgers aren't as sweet as their name suggests, and regularly hunt down highly dangerous prey. This cobra is one of the most venomous snakes in the world. But to the honey badger, it's just lunch. So, honey badger cubs have super daring parents. How about their own daredevil credentials? Well, this one will hang out with mum until around 2 years old. But while they're dependent when small, they're certainly not entirely defenseless. By around 3 months old, they have fully formed teeth, claws, and tough skin up to half a centimeter thick. Perhaps, though, their greatest asset is their attitude. Mum leaves her cub alone near their burrow while she goes out hunting and foraging for food. The burrow provides cover from would-be predators, but the cub is exploring. As is this jackal. Rodents are a regular on the jackal's menu, but there's good reason honey badgers aren't. Even youngsters can be highly aggressive, if not particularly graceful. It even seems like this cub goes out of its way to look for trouble. With multiple, far larger adversaries. The zebra may outweigh this little cub by nearly 50 times. Mum broke it up this time. But when fully grown at 6 months old, her cub's gung-ho gladiatorial attitude can make all the difference in a scrap. And the jackals are sent packing. And if this daredevil's prey think they're safe in the shallows, they're in for an explosive surprise. With their stunning black and white coloration, orca are always dressed for dinner and feed on a wide array of fish and aquatic mammals. Each requires a different hunting strategy. And at 2 locations, orca are known to use a high-risk tactic to make a kill. In Punta Norte, Argentina, the orca approach around high tide, carefully selecting the right wave before propelling themselves onto the shore. They deliberately target sea lion pups, with around half of attacks resulting in a kill. But it's a dangerous ploy for the orca. Adults can weigh close to 6 tons, and it takes considerable effort to free their bulk from the beach. Land too high up the shoreline, and the orca risks stranding and a slow death. On the Crozet Islands of the sub-Antarctic, orca use the same beaching method to hunt elephant seals. It's such a daredevil tactic, orca calves must undergo a long apprenticeship before attempting it themselves. This young orca is escorted by an adult female, which nudges the calf a safe distance ashore. The youngster must learn to strike a balance between being brave enough to reach those tasty seals, but not so brave she gets stuck. For now, the adult helps by positioning her bulk between the calf and the beach, pushing the apprentice back to deeper water when necessary. But for the next lesson, the calf must beach on her own. This attempt ends in near disaster. The calf lands too far up the beach. Fortunately, there's a team of scientists on hand who don't mind getting their corduroys wet. And after a bit of effort and the help of the incoming tide, the calf swims back to her waiting mother. Cue overjoyed boffin, yeah! So this highly dangerous mode of hunting is not easy to master. It can take several years of practice before calves graduate their beaching apprenticeship with a ruthless flourish. the help of her mother, this calf has made its first brutal shoreline kill. It's enough to scare even the big lads up the beach. That, or an ice cream van just pulled up. Africa's lions are known as king of the beasts for good reason. Weighing up to 240 kilograms, armed with razor-sharp claws and powerful jaws, lions are ruthless apex predators. They can take down animals up to 4 times their size. With such menacing parents, lion cubs should be a sure thing for a spot in the extreme animal countdown of daredevil babies. But born blind, toothless, and unable to walk, lion cubs start life helpless. In fact, they won't actively hunt with the pride until they're 16 months old. But even very young cubs will follow prey movements and practice hunting. And this one's on the prowl. Future king of the beasts versus a Weasley-looking mongoose. This is going to be brutal. Only the mongoose has mates. Rather a lot of mates. And they're not intimidated by this overgrown pussycat. Perhaps a lion cub should try taking on something with a little less attitude to prove its mettle. Something like, yeah, definitely not a snake. It's less daredevil and more plain daft to hiss at a python. A baboon. Now that's more like it. But this one's quick and disappears up a tree. The cub does try and follow. But soon gives up the chase. So it's another unsuccessful hunt. And as if to rub it in, the baboon pelts the cub with sticks. Could her day get any worse? Well, it never rains, but it pours. And the Messiah complex is one of the most active of its 19 volcanoes. Despite emitting clouds of toxic sulfuric gas, it's home to a particularly brave population of birds. The Pacific parakeet is known to have nested in 2 of its craters since at least the 16th century. But although it's a long-favored location, nesting in an active volcano poses a high level of danger to the parakeet chicks once they fledge. If this chick gets its maiden flight wrong, it risks a 300-meter fall into the active crater below. Just don't look down. The hognose snake is a scary-looking native of North America. When threatened, it primes to deliver an apparently venomous strike. But don't be fooled. The hognose snake is a slippery con artist. Whilst it is venomous, it's just potent enough to kill toads. But the snake flattens its head to look like a cobra. It strikes viciously, but does so with its mouth closed. Such is the respect shown to venomous snakes in the wild, this fraudulent song and dance is often enough to deter predators. It's undoubtedly a ballsy bluff, especially for an animal conspicuously lacking cojones. But does a freshly hatched hognose have the guile and guts of its parents? This newborn snake has attracted the attention of a hungry rat several times its size. There's no fake strike, but the hatchling instinctively pulls a different con. Rolling belly up, its mouth agape, the snake plays dead. This morbid pretense enhanced by the secretion of a deathly odor. Many predators will not eat foul-smelling corpses, and the rat gives up on its meal. As soon as it disappears, the snake has a seemingly miraculous recovery. The life of the theatre isn't for everyone. But the hognose snake will call upon its talent for acting time and again to save its skin. Although the audience will always be hostile, the show must go on if the snake wants to live. What? No encore? The blue alcan butterfly. Not particularly fast or acrobatic in the air, more of a flutterer than a fighter. And yet its offspring have the most outlandishly daring start to life. Female blue alcans lay their eggs on carefully selected gentian plants. Once hatched, the caterpillar doesn't look like much of an adventurer. But if it's to survive, it must hitch a lift with some very dangerous strangers. The caterpillar has been found by foraging European fire ants. It would undoubtedly make a quick, juicy meal, but the ants don't eat it because it smells just like one of their own larvae. Thanks to this cunning chemical mimicry, the ants instead haul the caterpillar back into the heart of their nest. The caterpillar is bigger and a completely different color than the ant larvae it's been stashed next to. Fire ants are known for their aggression, fierce defense of territory, and fiery stings. If they knew the caterpillar was actually an intruder, it would be instantly attacked. So its deception is truly daring. And it gets more brazen still. Not content with mere acceptance by the ants, the caterpillar begins to imitate the sound made by the queen, and consequently attains the colony's highest rank. The caterpillar's every need is catered for. It's fed directly by the worker ants, and although it's given more food than the actual ant larvae, the caterpillar will polish a few of these off too. What's more, the blue alcan caterpillar's audacious ruse is sustained, taking advantage of its host's unwitting hospitality for up to 2 years. When eventually ready to take on adult form, the blue alcan caterpillar forms a chrysalis, and the ants continue to clean and care for it. With the game finally up, the blue alcan must exit the nest, and sharpish. It's pulled off an outrageously dangerous con to emerge as a superfly butterfly. For so-called cold-blooded animals, wood frogs have a surprisingly cozy start to life. As tadpoles, they seek out the company of their siblings and hang out together in large groups. In fact, it's thought that of all amphibians, they're best able to recognize other family members. Although remembering all their names, well, that's another challenge entirely. During the summer months, the tadpoles will shed their family ties and tails to become frogs. Some will emerge onto land, soon to face a very cold, new world indeed. Because wood frogs are found further north than any other North American amphibian, even living here in the frigid climes of Alaska. Amphibians are only ever as warm as the day, and in Alaska, that can be sub-zero for 6 months of the year. With the mercury plunging to lows of -20 in the depths of winter. So, just months into life on land, and with up to 3 years to wait until it can breed, how will this young frog escape the killer climate? As the weather reaches topside, the wood frog can be found buried under leaf litter. Close to half of its body is frozen solid. The semi-frozen frog's heartbeat, breathing, and brain activity has ceased altogether. Clinically speaking, it's dead. Wood frogs can remain in near total physiological shutdown for up to 7 months. But when spring and the big melt arrives, something astonishing happens. Thanks to an antifreeze substance in its blood, the frog's cells have remained functional and it begins to thaw. Until eventually, it's completely reanimate. The young frog has survived its first Alaskan winter, emerging to warm its body in the spring sunshine. Dragonflies combine speed, graceful aerial agility, and often vivid colors. They are truly visually compelling insects. At first glance, their infant offspring, not so much. Flightless, dull-colored, and let's face it, ugly. Dragonfly nymphs have a lot of growing up to do before they're as charming as their parents. It takes some species up to 7 years to shed their skin and assume their adult form as flying insects. But as nymphs, they already possess some of their parents' attributes. For one thing, they're quick in the water, traveling in bursts of up to 10 centimeters per second. So how does the nymph generate this daring turn of speed? Its limbs are way too spindly, but its abdomen is a muscular pump, moving water in and out of the nymph's body, contracted with force, and the nymph's out of there. It's like it's got a jet propulsion pack up its backside. And there's another impressive feature of the dragonfly nymph's internal hydraulics. By suddenly releasing built-up water pressure inside its abdomen, the nymph can fire out its lower jaw to grab prey. So thanks to packing jet propulsion and a high-velocity harpoon, the dragonfly nymph is a formidable predator for its size. What's more, with a penchant for tadpoles, apparently they taste just like chicken. And even tadpoles nearly grown into frogs Dragonfly nymphs are in an exclusive club. Very few insects are capable of hunting down and munching up vertebrates. Crunchy. With its gothic appearance and mythic association with the supernatural realm, the raven has a pretty scary rep. And yet these American raven chicks are far from tough guys. Under Mum's watchful gaze, this lot are finally ready to leave the nest they now barely fit into. They're around 5 or 6 weeks old and fully fledged. But when they attempt to fly, they don't get very far. Mum rewards this chick with a bit of food for trying anyway. For the first week or so, the chicks remain close to the nest, flying only short distances. And it looks like that this deserves a wee treat too. Even once capable of looking after themselves, raven chicks will often continue to hang around their parents. Ooh, well done. Great crowing. And the food keeps on coming. But when they eventually do go out on their own, juvenile ravens get into all sorts of mischief. On the Kamchatka Peninsula in eastern Russia, this youngster has decided to steal lunch off a Stella's sea eagle. It's only a chick, but it's far larger than the raven, and its nearby mother could be more than 10 times the raven's size. What's more, around 3/4 of this eaglet's diet is likely to be other birds. Time to call in some backup. Ravens are highly intelligent and will sometimes team up to problem solve. And this pair aren't here to do a crossword. They've got a rather daring scam in mind. One distracts the eaglet while the other... Oh, that's sneaky. Young punk ravens 1, big dumb sea eagle chick 0. But ravens don't even place on the countdown. Because while nicking lunch from a hungry bird of prey takes steely nerves, our next battling baby must fight its way off the lunch menu. Royal albatross chicks are the product of a one-egg brood, but these are not spoiled birds. Once fully grown, Royal albatross have a wingspan of over 3 meters, which, once airborne, allows them to soar at speeds in excess of 112 kilometers per hour. At 8 months old, having never flown before, this chick is about to set off on an epic adventure navigating the southern hemisphere's cold, treacherous open oceans. Incredibly, it might be 5 years before he touches dry land again, in which time he's likely to have clocked up at least 800,000 kilometers on the wing. But while this is an epic maiden journey, the Royal Albatross's tropical cousins have a first flight even more fraught with danger. The Laysan albatross is reared in the far warmer climes of Hawaii. These chicks are nearly fully fledged, but have yet to shed all their down. Like many adolescents, they have a rather experimental look. But for this lot, there's no time to add questionable piercings and bad tattoos, because soon they, along with fledgling black-footed albatross, will take to the air for the first time. Hawaii is world-renowned for its stunning coastline. But although this albatross chick doesn't yet know it, shadowy dangers lurk in its waters. Tiger sharks arrive just off Hawaii's albatross colonies every June and July, just in time for the maiden flights of fledgling albatross. This chick's first flight will be its last. Around 1 in 10 of these young birds will be devoured by these formidable predators. A 2-kilogram baby bird versus a highly aggressive apex predator up to 5.5 meters long. No contest. Or so you'd think. But this chick isn't going down without a fight. And this battling baby lives to fly another day. So finally, we've reached the top spot of the extreme animal countdown of daredevil babies. The savannah of Africa is home to a truly imposing mega herbivore. This white rhino is in the final throes of labor. Her calf arrives in the world weighing 40 kilograms. Despite her heft and practically armor-plated skin, calves are unsteady on their feet for the first few days. And that makes them vulnerable to predators. But if these hyenas think they're getting past Mum, they're having a laugh. Weighing anywhere between a car and a small truck, with a horn capable of inflicting horrific wounds, Rhino can charge at up to 50 kilometers an hour. So, if you see a rhino in a bad mood, probably best to stay out of their way. Rhino calves take full advantage of their formidable bodyguard. This newborn will stay with her massive mother until 2 or 3 years old. Black rhino live primarily in brushland, so calves always travel behind their mother, who can thwart any hidden attackers. White rhino calves trot along in front of Mum. They mostly live on the open savanna, so this leaves them less prone to attack from the rear by lions, leopards, and hyena. But while Mum's great at deterring predators, at this waterhole, she's attracted the attentions of a very large bull. Female rhinos are frequently killed by territorial males. And if she's on heat and her calf is male, he could also be in mortal danger. But rhino calves are so attached to their mothers, they may refuse to leave her side. Forsaking its own safety, this calf does something extraordinarily brave. The calf has seen off an aggressor many times its size and saved its mother from a potentially lethal encounter. But rhino calves aren't always such tough guys. This little fella just loves to kid around. After all, even the ultimate daredevil baby needs some downtime to hang out with pals and act the goat. They might seem cute, helpless, and charmingly innocent. Or they can look fierce, weird, and downright creepy. In the world of extreme animals, meet the babies. The Amazon, one of the world's most dangerous nurseries. In this predator paradise, there's no time for baby steps, as our jungle nippers compete to survive the ultimate free-range parenting. Which babies boast the cleverest blueprint for survival? Find out in the Extreme Animal Countdown as we reveal the top 10 Amazonian baby survivors. The Amazon's many rivers are home to a close relative of the alligator, the South American cayman. Some species of cayman may grow to 3 meters long and weigh in at as much as 270 kilos. Few Amazonian animals can wipe the bone-crushing grin off a fully grown cayman's face. But newborn, baby caymans are only a few centimeters long. These bite-sized babies aren't much of a threat, yet. Newly formed caymans are particularly vulnerable as they start life inside an egg. Luckily, Mum has a plan for that and keeps them buried until they hatch. The female will listen hard for the telltale sounds of the hatching babies. That's her cue to dig up the nest, giving the youngsters their first glimpse of their Amazon home. It's hard to kiss your kids when you've got one of nature's most powerful jaws. But Mum's actually on taxi duty, carefully carrying her young to the water's edge. Like most families, there's always a couple of dawdlers, and some of the eggs have yet to hatch. They'll make an easy meal for opportunistic predators. So Mum will have to speed along the process. Having few tools at her disposal, she goes to work with her fearsome fangs. It's like using a jackhammer to crack a walnut. But she's deft, gentle, and incredibly breaks the shell without breaking the baby, which emerges into the world in one piece. So far, so good. But there's a shock in store for some of these tiny dependents. Mum decides someone else can take over from here and dumps her offspring on another willing female. Along with her own babies, the foster mother now has a vast brood to take care of. These young caymans' survival strategy is to stay out of the water and as close to their guardian as possible, climbing aboard her like an armor-plated battleship. But there just isn't enough room for them all. And in the Amazon, if you stray too far from the mothership, you risk getting mugged by the mighty river's most feared gangsters. The piranhas. It takes seconds for the tiny Cayman to go from all grins and snappy attitude to blood, guts, and fish food. But for having the survival sense to use their toothy guardian as a floating fortress, Cayman babies squeak in at number 10 on the Amazon Survivors Countdown. The Amazon's trees are a sanctuary of sorts for many creatures. Many, like the woolly and capuchin monkeys, zip through the foliage at high speed. But there's one mammal which lives life in permanent slow-mo. Three-toed sloths are so chilled out, not even a face full of fire ants will spoil a snooze. This South American herbivore has one of the slowest metabolisms in nature and doesn't do anything fast, especially food. And that's great for baby sloths, which can nap uninterrupted while clinging to mum. So apart from an iron grip, what's the baby sloth's best survival trick? And here's a clue. It's not a sudden turn of speed. Well, the sloth's first strategy is taken straight from the Commando Handbook. Jungle camouflage. Sloths are so slow that mum and baby seem to have gathered moss on their fur. This organic camo is actually algae and blends so well with the foliage that these noisy neighbors at first seem unaware of mum and baby. But when they are spotted, of course, mum's not about to run from a fight. Baby sloth survival tool number 2 is to hide behind mum's set of very long, sharp claws. And no slouch of a left hook. But while sloths are well kitted out to survive while lounging in the jungle canopy, they're exposed as soon as they leave the safety of the trees. And once every 3 weeks, mum does just that, to answer a call of nature. By about 5 months old, he'll have to make this toilet trip on his own. Moving at just over 1.5 kilometers per hour is not exactly a taxing speed for any passing jaguar. Dicing with death on the Amazon forest floor, sloth survival can seem more a matter of luck than judgment. But in the trees, the greatest threat comes from the air. The South American harpy eagle can carry a full-grown sloth plus baby back to its nest. Their insanely risky toilet habits knock three-toed sloths out of the countdown. They're overtaken by an impressively agile mammal. South American spider monkeys swing through the trees at incredible pace. Using their special prehensile tails to grip branches, they can taunt the local predators with glee. Infants spend most of their young lives in the canopy, sleeping, feeding, and of course, playing. But if they're to survive to maturity, they must learn one simple lesson well: how to cling on to their fast-moving mum for dear life. Well, most of the time anyway. Spider monkeys are thought to be more intelligent than gorillas. So if she's smart, why would mum take Junior down to the forest floor where her speed through the trees counts for nothing? Well, brains don't come into it when you're bored of eating leafy greens. She's been lured by the tasty salt in the mud pools. Baby's along for the ride. And keen for a salty treat too. So keen, he nearly forgets survival rule number 1. Never let go of mum. Who? What? Where? But while he's fooled by mum, baby is switched on to potential threats. And when it's time to go, he's holding on tight. This time, it's a troop of peccaries with wickedly sharp tusks. But Junior's quick reactions mean he's taking in the view from the safety of mum's arms. So, for its quick wits and limpet-like grip, the spider monkey baby swings in at number 9 on the survival ladder. Next up, meet a baby who likes a waterside view. And one that shows flyings for the birds, just not this bird. So far in the countdown of Amazon baby survivors, Cayman tiddlers survive piranha-infested waters by clambering aboard a fearsome guardian. They're in at number 10. In 9th spot, spider monkey babies live through a high-speed infancy, swinging through the treetops thanks to a vice-like grip. The next survival contender is a baby bird born on the banks of the Amazon and, unbeknown to them, into a deadly race with the elements. Black skimmer chicks are fluffy little eating machines, and in fact, their seemingly insatiable appetite may be key to their survival. Fortunately for the hungry chicks, their parents are built to fish. They have a specialized beak with a longer lower mandible. It's designed so the bird can fish on the wing. When it hits a small fish, the upper mandible snaps shut to catch it. For a month after their chicks hatch, skimmers will fish like this day and night to provide an all-you-can-eat sushi banquet. It's imperative for the chicks to pile on the weight and grow to over 200 grams to be strong enough to fly. Because the skimmer's nesting habits have a potentially fatal flaw. Its nest is just a small indentation in the sand, so highly vulnerable to flooding. The rich waters of the Amazon may provide a constant supply of food, but when the dry season ends, they'll bring almost certain death for any remaining chicks. This little one needs to eat as much as it can, as fast as it can, if it's to escape the imminent floods, even if it means scrapping with its siblings to steal a meal. And it's no good appealing to mum. She's not taking sides. For these little ones, it seems crime does pay. There's no hiding which is the more proficient thief. But even the dominant chick is still land-bound, its wings too small to fly. And unfortunately, the rains have arrived early this year. In the Amazon, as much as 3 meters of water can fall in the wet season. The influx churning its rivers into raging torrents of mud and jungle detritus. All this skimmer chick can do is lie and wait as the river rises. Its parents are powerless to help as fingers of water slowly reach for their offspring. The chick attempts to evade its grasp. But perhaps mistaking the foam for land, runs straight into the river. Even fully grown skimmers can't swim, and the helpless chick soon disappears in this lethal bubble bath. A casualty of bad timing. So, for growing up on a riverbank at high risk of flooding, in a nest at low risk of saving them, skimmer chicks don't make the top 10 Amazonian survivors. Amazon macaws have a far safer nesting strategy. Their young hatch out inside tree hollows high above the water and out of reach of the lethal threat it holds. For a while, the chicks can forget about the Cayman, their parents bringing them all the food they need. But after a few months, they're fully fledged. Room service stops, and they must fend for themselves. And that means learning to fly over very dangerous waters indeed. The first sibling decides taking off from height will be an advantage, and scales the tree using its powerful beak. Mum keeps an eye on things from a distance, but for this, the kids are on their own. The young macaw stretches his wings and gives them an exploratory flap. They had better work first time, because there's several hungry cayman hoping they don't. Little wonder the other sibling doesn't seem too keen to leave the nest at all. Back at the top of the tree, it looks like it's crunch time. But not to be outdone, his brother has got his act together. And it's 3, 2, 1. Oh, what's the opposite of liftoff? The fledgling has made a meal of its first flight. And itself in the process. For the cayman, a bird in the pond is worth 2 in the tree. And the other young macaw flies safely away. So they're not just a pretty polly. They've got to be pretty brave baby birds too. Macaw chicks take out 8th spot in the countdown of Amazonian survivors. On the outer edges of Amazonia, one inhabitant has a taste for high wire acts. While deep in the rainforest, a cuddle from the world's heaviest snake isn't a friendly gesture. Along the eastern slopes of the Andes, mountain conditions produce a cooler Amazon climate, along with lush equatorial vegetation, making it a perfect home for South America's only bear. The spectacled bear gets its name from facial markings that look a little bit as though it's wearing glasses. Well, sort of. Famously, the inspiration for children's character Paddington Bear. This cub is sticking close to Mum. Although at nearly a year old, it won't be long before she encourages him to set out on his travels. Before then, the cub needs to learn from Mum how to find food in these trees and plants. But there's not a marmalade sandwich in sight. Just confusing flowers and vegetation he'll have to navigate without losing his balance. Mum shows how it's done. Leaving behind a trail of destruction as she tries to find the juiciest plants. Living on the equator means there's food all year round, so no winter snooze for these guys. Junior finds it's not quite as easy as Mum makes it look. Over 45 kilos is a lot of weight to haul up a vertical tree trunk. The bromeliads that make the tastiest snacks grow high up on the trees, and unless Junior can get there soon, Mum will have eaten all the best bits. Which doesn't impress the frogs. She's eating them out of house and home. The relentless mist turns bromeliads into the ultimate penthouse with a pool for Amazonian amphibians. If Junior's to join in this feast, he'll have to learn fast, without ropes and crampons. What goes up must come down. Oh well, if at first you don't succeed. This little bear is nothing if not determined. And a mouthful of spiky leaves help to make it all worthwhile. Look, Mum, I made it. For persistence and a can-do attitude, the spectacled bear cub climbs in at number 7 on the Amazon Survival Countdown. Hidden below the foliage is the queen of the forest litter, the fire ant. Such is their organized ferocity, fire ants go about their daily foraging with little interference from other animals. Most insects and other forest floor critters do their best to steer clear of these marauding mobsters. There's no shortage of babysitters in these underground nurseries, but even all these eager guardians are helpless to prevent one serious threat. Water, and lots of it. In the rainy season, parts of the Amazon jungle become completely flooded. The transformation brings a new crowd to the neighborhood. Freshwater dolphins explore pathways that not long ago were high and dry. But fire ants are nothing if not resourceful. When the floods come, the colony comes together to form a living raft. Surface tension keeps them afloat, helped by air bubbles trapped between their water-repellent bodies. It's clever, but not that clever. They may be able to raft on top of the water, but the larvae on this cruise are still vulnerable to underwater pirates. When they make it to dry land, or at least a tree, the colony disembarks, unloading the family as they go. But for turning a blind eye while fish make caviar of the kids, fire ants float outside the top 10 countdown. One of the largest creatures in the rainforest is a scary customer who loves the semi-aquatic Amazon lifestyle. The giant South American anaconda is the world's heaviest snake, with a whopping appetite to match. Their incredible elastic jaws mean they can consume prey as large as a cayman. Big snake means big babies, but to reduce the risk of predation while they're eggs, they hatch out inside their mother's womb. Dozens emerge, slithering and seething, at a full 60 centimeters long. In a ghoulish act of recycling, Mum eats those that don't make it out alive, including any unhatched eggs. After a slap-up meal, she decides parenting's for the birds. And from this point on, Mama Anaconda couldn't care less about the kids. Her young swim away to explore their new underwater playground completely on their own. The baby snakes are great swimmers and can hunt from the moment of hatching. But this young snake isn't the only killer in the water. And it'll be no match for a gang of piranhas. The infant swims into the weed at the water's surface to evade its pursuers, but attracts the attention of an ocelot. Anacondas have no venom, so are a safe snack for this small cat. And this snake's short life comes to a grisly end. But with so many siblings striking out simultaneously into the watery world of the Amazon, the family can afford to lose a few. For having such a scary incubator, anaconda babies slide up the Amazonian survivor ladder to number 6. Coming up in the Amazon Survivors Countdown, supersized river mammals dealing with an unwelcome guest. And fish fry magicians that use an incredible visual trick to confuse predators. At the halfway mark, the number 5 extreme animal baby is one of the world's most appealing aquatic species, the otter. Animated faces, strong family ties, and an adventurous nature combine to make these little fellas really quite lovable. Only in the Amazon, otters aren't at all little. Giant otters can grow to almost 2 meters in length, making them the largest otter on Earth. Known locally as river wolves, they're impressive hunters and can swim over 100 meters in 30 seconds. Otters as young as 2 months will go out hunting, but catching the fish is often only half the battle. With as many as 8 otters in a family group, someone else is always bound to be hungry, and no one minds their manners. But when you're small in the Amazon, having bigger brothers and sisters can be a lifesaver. Because the family has neighbors with a taste for baby otter. Cayman crocodilians. The Cayman won't just blunder in for the kill. They prefer to use stealth and sneak attacks. These killer reptiles have all the time in the world for dinner, if waiting means juicy otter pups on the menu. But with many eyes keeping watch, not much gets past the otter clan. And when one would-be diner gets too close, the family intervenes en masse. This young pup's keen to get in on the action, but he's got to get past Mum first, and she has other ideas, carrying him back to the safety of the den. The Cayman is keen to follow, but the otters make it very clear it's not invited for dinner. The group has the croc surrounded, and one young otter sends it on its way. But the Cayman's not about to leave quietly. After all, it has a killer reputation to protect. Eventually, faced with a gang of squealing otters, the Cayman gives up on dinner and buzzes off. Back at the den, the babies emerge none the wiser. So, for its early proficiency in the water and protective older siblings, the otter pup places a respectable number 5 on our countdown of Amazon survivors. These extreme animal babies go to great lengths to survive cunning predators and a frequently lethal environment in their tropical home. Competition has driven some Amazonian fish to adopt stealthy strategies to help their young survive the fish-eat-fish world. They may not look like much, but the splash tetra makes up for a lack of size by using its brain. Instead of laying vulnerable eggs in water like most fish do, this tiny fish has an ingenious hiding place on an overhanging leaf. Just one problem. They're fish who like water. So, a bit of acrobatics is needed. The male and female jump together in perfect synchronicity. The intrepid fish remain there for a good few seconds before falling back down. She's left several eggs stuck to the leaf, and each leap leaves a few more. A special gel keeps the eggs moist. However, this won't last for long. The male is now tasked with the tricky job of making sure the eggs don't dry out. He slaps the top of the water with his tail, splashing water on the precious offspring-to-be. Living up to his name, the Splash Tetra. Over the next couple of days, their fry begin to develop. But what happens next? There's no protection for the next crucial stage of their lives. The tiny fry have to fend for themselves in a river full of predators. So the Splash Tetras fall at the final hurdle and don't make it into our top 10 countdown. But now we're down to the business end of the countdown, and the final few have some really ingenious tactics. Water everywhere means there are huge numbers of fish species in the Amazon, more than the birds and mammals combined. And our next contenders, despite literally being small fry, are big on defensive measures. And they'll have to be, as the Amazon has many voracious predators, large and even larger. The huge Pirarucu grows into a 3-meter giant, weighing up to 180 kilos. As adults, not much dares take on this mighty fish. And Pirarucu have likely swum in the upper echelon of the food chain for millions of years. These ancient fish even breathe air. They also have the most incredible feeding technique. They suck in their prey at high speed. Despite being tiny in comparison to mum and dad, Pirarucu fry are no suckers when it comes to warding off predators. They'd undoubtedly make a tasty snack for passing Caymans. But you don't survive millennia in the Amazon without picking up a trick or two. And the young fish put on a particularly elaborate deception. The babies form a giant ball around their dad's head, which has darkened to blend with his massed offspring. Swimming in tight formation through murky Amazonian waters, the wall of fry appears as one with their huge parent. And way too formidable for even a hungry Cayman. So, for proving the shoal is greater than the sum of its parts, the Pirarucu swim in at number 4. Back on dry land, the speed and endurance of one group of babies will prove the difference between life and death. The riverbanks of the Amazon are the scene for a sandboarding competition with no rules. Every year, thousands of baby river turtles emerge from their sandy hatcheries to hurtle down towards the river. Of course, when you're wearing a crash helmet as a onesie, high-speed collisions hold no fear. But why the annual stampede? Well, wind back the clock a month and a half, and one of nature's most amazing feats of innate synchronization is underway. Many of the pregnant females which are born in this hatchery have arrived to lay their eggs on exactly the same day. Each turtle will pull themselves a safe distance from the water's edge before excavating a deep nest in the sand. Survival rates for young are low, but Mum plays the percentage game, laying around 100 eggs to ensure at least a few will make it to adulthood. She also covers the eggs with sand to protect them from the heat of the day and predatory birds. But not all have been as careful, and by dawn, the vultures are in for a feast. And in a feeding frenzy, there's only one way to have your eggs: scrambled. As far as Mum's concerned, it's job done, and she scarpers back to the water. In a second marvel of natural timing, 47 days later, her babies, along with many others, will make their first appearance. Instinctively, they dig their way out of the safety of their nest. And it's now they'll prove their mettle. The vulture's bumper egg brekkie is a distant memory. It's lunchtime. The baby turtles have only one survival option: to run the gauntlet of predators as fast as their little flippers will carry them to the safety of the water. Well, it's all relative. Their flippers are remarkably effective on land, and their shells are great for a bit of sand surfing. Whee! Unfortunately, this little turtle's sense of direction isn't as meticulous as its sense of timing, and it runs in the wrong direction. It's fast, but not that fast. And now not even its shell can save it. Even for the turtles headed in the right direction, quite a few won't make it. But with such large numbers heading for the water's edge simultaneously, the predators can only pick off so many, and the vast majority reach the water. One day, some of the females from this group of survivors may return to the same riverbank to lay their own eggs. To ensure safety in overwhelming numbers, these river turtle babies keep time like a Swiss clock. So there's nothing cuckoo about awarding them third place in the Amazonian Survivor Countdown. The Amazon canopy has only one king: the harpy eagle, the true ruler of the treetops. It's one of the strongest raptors in the world, capable of carrying half its own body weight in prey to their waiting offspring. Cleverly, harpy eagles build their nests at the very top of rainforest trees, 40 meters above ground. Safe from most predators, the growing chick lives like a fairy tale princess, whose only real concern is when they get their next meal. This princess has been waiting a couple of days, and she's not happy. The remnants of her last meal are looking distinctly unappealing, now infested with flies. Her parents are constantly on the hunt, trying to please her every whim. Today, she's getting a speedy delivery of the ultimate slow food in the form of an unlucky sloth. About time too, Mum. Living in an ivory tower can have another big drawback. At fledgling stage, they have to learn to fly 40 meters up from certain depth. And at 6 months, they begin to flap those wings. But they can fall to their deaths if they get it wrong. A harpy chick will spend hours flapping, building up its wing strength before attempting the dangerous first flight. Eventually, success. With such determination and hours of practice, if she can keep her balance and temper, living like an avian Rapunzel makes her an adept survivor here. So, the harpy eagle chick glides in at number 2 on the countdown. For all the large predators in the Amazon, there's only one that sits at the apex. But these newborns are as vulnerable as any Amazon baby. Amazon babies have to be tough, smart, or very lucky to survive their childhood. At number 10, Cayman babies using mum, anyone's mum, as a life raft. Swinging in at number 9, spider monkeys clinging on for dear life. At number 8, macaws stay safe in their baby bolt hole. Climbing in at number 7, the give it a go spectacled bear cub. Baby anacondas striking out alone slide in at number 6. While giant river otter pups not getting in on the action squeak in to number 5. Number 4 sees pirarucu babies showing off their synchronized swimming to dad. A mad dash sees river turtle babies splash in to number 3. Penthouse luxury and doting parents see harpy eagle chicks flap into number 2. So it's time to meet the extreme animal baby that aces its Amazonian habitat. Subject of myths and legends, and the undisputed ruler of the Amazon jungle, even the toughest can fall victim to the jaguar. The apex predator of the Amazon forest. The strongest bite force of all the cats gives this cayman a fatal headache, crunching through its skull. No wonder a jaguar on the prowl sends everyone else running for the hills. Well, nearly everyone. Fortunately for the sloth, it had a head start. And this jaguar knows when to give up. Next time. Meanwhile, back home, Junior can't do much at this age, except shout for mum. Which can be dangerous, depending on who else is in earshot. A cub makes a tasty morsel for an anaconda. And mum's lying down on the job. But not for long. This snake is in no mood to take on a mother jaguar. Just like any mum, jaguars have a tender side. But it's not for public consumption. After all, she also has a reputation to protect. Jaguars have small litters, usually 2 or 3 cubs. But when you're an only child, you've got to make your own entertainment. Trying to follow mum when she's off hunting is probably not the best idea. Part of growing up is learning to get your own dinner. And in the Amazon rainforest, being fussy about your food can be a good survival strategy. The venom of this tarantula isn't powerful enough to harm the cub, but its barbed hairs can cause nasty irritation. Yes, it's a good idea not to sample anything with 8 hairy legs. But even at this age, you can't beat a bit of time with Mum. At 3 months old, Junior still relies on Mum for milk, but time is running out. She'll be packing him off to hunt for himself, and with raw meat on the menu, that's not going to be easy. To become the apex predator, he needs special forces training. Luckily, he has the whole jungle to practice in. But not everything goes to plan. To survive here, he must learn quickly from his mistakes. He's seen Mum tackle one of these. Time to have a go. Taking to the water might work with some cats, but not this Amazon baby. Young jaguar versus baby cayman equals no contest. So for its stealth, immense agility, and ferocious bite, jaguar cubs take out the #1 slot on the Extreme Animal Babies Amazon Survivors Countdown. Once you've got a taste for cayman, it's hard not to think bigger. This young jaguar can't believe its luck. Seems fresh. Smells good. Time for a taste test. But that's probably not the best idea. Maybe he won't tell Mum about that one. They might seem cute, helpless, and charmingly innocent. Or they can look fierce, weird, and downright creepy. In the world of extreme animals, meet the babies. The babies on this countdown have to grow up fast in a land of extremes. These infants face fire and flood, and some of the deadliest creatures on the planet. Meet the Aussie Battlers, and get ready for a roll call of the fiercest, feistiest babies in Australia. The driest inhabited continent on Earth has produced some of the world's strangest creatures. Many of them found nowhere else on the planet. It takes a special kind of creature to flourish here. And no one does it better than Australia's icon, the kangaroo. The vast distances of the outback are no walk in the park. But kangaroos solved that by deciding that hopping isn't just for the birds. The only large mammal with its own inbuilt pogo stick can reach speeds of over 50 kilometers per hour. Some find getting all that leg action under control a little more challenging than others. Fortunately, Mum is usually on hand for a hug. Baby kangaroos, known as joeys, form a strong bond with Mum. This marsupial matriarch is sleeping bag, comfort blanket, and live in diner all in one. The joey's first experience of the outside world is mountaineering up Mum's stomach, desperate to get back inside. When ejected from the womb, the jelly bean-sized joey is at the same stage of development as a 7-week-old human embryo. Once the infant makes it to the pouch, it latches on to one of Mum's 4 nipples and doesn't let go for the next 10 weeks, while it grows into something that actually looks like a kangaroo. There's no chance of getting this kid to tidy up its room. So when things start to get a little high, Mum cleans out the waste herself. You can't beat breakfast in bed, even when home can get a little cramped. It's a good 6 months before Junior will leave the security of the pouch for the first time. And it's back inside whenever Mum will let it. The versatile pouch is crucial to the kangaroo's success. Mum holds the keys to the pouch. She can open it or zip it shut. And this gives her much more control over her pregnancy than most animals get. If times get really tough, she can kick out the still developing baby to save herself. And with a climate that can put swimming lessons on the agenda 1 month and threaten to barbecue the kids the next, this isn't a landscape to take for granted. The harsh conditions of outback Australia lead to some difficult choices. Adult kangaroos can survive for up to 2 weeks without a drink. But prolonged drought takes its toll. Joeys are more vulnerable to heat and hunger than adults, which makes them a liability when the chips are down. This mum has decided to save her strength and cut off the milk supply. Which means this little kangaroo isn't going to make its first birthday. But there's always a silver lining for someone. So, for bouncing in and out of Mum's good books, kangaroo kids spring into number 10 on the Aussie Battlers Countdown. Living in one of the driest continents on Earth presents its challenges to a bird that loves the water. The magpie goose avoids Australia's arid centre, sticking mostly to coastal areas in the north and east. This sociable waterbird spreads out in flocks of thousands to stake out nesting sites towards the end of the wet season. Food may be more plentiful with more water around. But you can have too much of a good thing. And some babies' battles are over before they begin. It's not just the weather that means even making it out of the egg can be a challenge. Dingoes always have an eye out for the main chance. An egg does have the advantage of keeping the kids quiet, which means these noisier cuckoo chicks are getting this dingo's attention. The cuckoo parent hops it, and the chicks stop their clamour for food. The lush vegetation helps conceal the nest. But at the goose nest, there's no protection from a snake in the grass. This is probably not the best time to make your entrance into the world. Mum and Dad do their best to distract the water python, and their display succeeds in driving it away. Just in time to welcome the newest family members into a world that, just for the moment, isn't trying to eat them. These chicks get an extra helping hand in life. Magpie geese often form long-term polygamous relationships of a male and 2 females. The eggs in the family nest could be laid by either or both of the females. So these babies are growing up with a dad and 2 mums. And growing up in Australia means maneuvering in a minefield of beaks, claws and teeth. So having an extra parent can swing the odds in your favor. A sea eagle isn't going to tackle an adult bird, but chicks are just snack-sized. Three parents can form a serious defensive shield, but it's harder when there's just the 2 of you. It's never easy to let go. But this chick is a lost cause. The adults are constantly on guard. But a peaceful billabong can erupt in a moment. Seeing Mum munched in front of you is a lesson you won't forget. So, for embracing safety in numbers as the family motto, Magpie Geese chicks honk into number 9 on the Extreme Animals Countdown. Eucalyptus trees dominate much of the Australian landscape. The high level of toxins in their leaves make them unappetizing to most creatures. But there's one animal that spends its life up a gum tree. The koala has developed a unique digestive system, which means it can dine without leaving home. It has an extremely large intestine for its size, and an abundance of gut bacteria to counteract the toxins in its food.
I'm in the mood for food. Feed me till I am fit to burst.
So much energy is expended on this high-fiber, low-protein diet that koalas don't have much left over for anything else. – 80% of their lives is spent in dream time. In fact, every minute of wide-awake action requires 4 minutes of snoozing to recover. Although, when you're up a gum tree, it's best to hold on tight. A bit of Pilates helps keep things cool in the heat of the day. But let's not get too carried away. Like kangaroos, koala babies start life in a pouch, but there's a difference. The opening to this pouch faces downwards, so Mum has to exercise her sphincter muscles to keep the baby from plummeting to its death. But there's a good reason for this apparent design flaw, which might put you off your dinner. Infant koalas have to be eased into eating their toxic solids. And Mum's bum produces a half-digested version, packed with helpful bacteria that will kickstart the baby's own digestive system. This yogurty treat entices the 6-month-old Joey to make its first excursions outside the pouch and have a go at the adult's table. Although Mum's milk will still be on offer for another 6 months. Getting back home can be a bit tricky with no help from Mum. and a 10-meter drop below. That's got to the bottom of it. For putting up with the worst baby food ever and a death-defying iron grip, baby koalas are the number 8 Aussie battlers. The countdown is just warming up, and so are the next babies who've had to adapt to life in the desert. Bouncing babies reluctant to leave home took out number 10. Baby geese on a flight to nowhere squawked into number 9. And disgusting dining from koala kids at number 8. They might have been here for over 3,000 years. But that still makes dingoes relatively recent arrivals on the Australian scene. A descendant of the Asian wolf, these canine conquistadors quickly made themselves at home in the challenging Australian landscape. Strong family bonds are a key to their success. Dingoes often mate for life, producing litters of from 1 to 10 cubs once a year, and sharing childcare in stable packs of up to 12 individuals. A strict hierarchy and strong pack discipline make for a winning strategy. And dingo pups spend a lot of energy play fighting to sort out who's top dog. These kids are all pups of the pack's dominant pair. They have no other playmates because Mum has brutally dispatched any pups born to subordinate females. So, you really don't want to get on the wrong side of a dingo mum. The dingo's other great tactic for success has been its willingness to try to eat almost anything, and refusal to recognize its limitations. Dingo pups come equipped with a can-do attitude. It's not always a good idea to stick your head in a strange hole. But this pup is doing everyone a favour by reducing Australia's pesky rabbit menace, one bunny at a time. Might want to work on the focus, though. Learning when to persist and when to back off is an essential skill in a land with some of the most dangerous animals in the world. Luckily for this inquisitive pup, it's annoying a harmless shingleback skink. Well, almost harmless. For their strict upbringing and willingness to stick their noses in anywhere, dingo pups are the number 7 Aussie battler. The next battling babe is also an Aussie immigrant. This extreme animal is uniquely designed to survive in desert conditions. Introduced in 1840 as beasts of burden, camels made themselves so at home here that the outback now boasts the world's largest herd of feral camels. Up to 1 million roam Australia's red centre. Camels can survive without water for days. Although when given the chance, they can vacuum up as much as 200 litres in less than 20 minutes. Once they figured out how to actually reach it. Adults can weigh in at up to 600 kilos. So you don't want to get stuck between two of the aunties. Unlike the native marsupials, who keep womb time to a minimum, the camel fetus gets more than a year of gestation. which means that Mum has to push out up to 50 kilos of fully formed baby. After a year curled up inside, getting control of all those long legs is no mean feat. When they're more or less under control, those long legs help the baby deal with extreme heat by keeping the rest of its body as far away as possible from the hot ground. Only a few days after birth, it's time to go in search of a mum and toddler support group. Females with babies hang out together under the protection of an alpha bull. And this is what they need protection from. Gangs of unattached males roam the desert looking for trouble. And a lone female is just what the boys are after. The gang move in on Mum. But one big bully finds an easier target and starts beating on the baby. Males can attack and kill young calves. And that's not a friendly hug. But it's Mum to the rescue. The baby may be bruised and battered, but this little Aussie battler is made of tough stuff. For surviving the desert while being used as a doormat, camel calves are a well-earned number 6 in the countdown of extreme animal babies. We've seen babies baking in the harsh Australian interior. Next, a watery wonderworld. It's been ruthless, death-defying, and brutal. In the first half of the countdown to the number 1 baby Aussie battler. Australia's coastline is home to an extraordinary variety of colourful sea life. The sometimes charming, sometimes wacky and weird inhabitants include some of the most dangerous animals on the planet. You wouldn't want to get on the wrong side of this little guy. The tiny blue-ringed octopus packs enough poison in its golf ball-sized body to take out over 20 people. If it was in a really bad mood. The extravagant outfits of some residents may seem to be shouting, "Look at me! Ta-da!" But they're actually pretty effective camouflage. If these pieces of drifting seaweed didn't have eyes, they'd be a dead ringer for the real thing. By the way, the head's at the bottom. Sea dragons float around like fairy tale creatures, raising the tone of the neighborhood with their ethereal beauty. While their cousins, the seahorses, indulge in a little canoodling in public. The big belly seahorse is big all over for a seahorse, reaching over 30 centimeters long. And this male is proudly showing off his defining feature. The date is going well, and his belly will soon be performing a very unusual function. In seahorses, it's Dad who gets pregnant. During the mating, the female transfers her eggs into his pouch, where they'll be fertilized and grow, in a placental fluid, just like in a womb. After about 30 days, Dad goes into labor. And out pop perfectly formed baby seahorses. Lots of them. Dad can produce up to 700 at a time. With the babies gone, Dad feels a new lightness of being and doesn't seem too keen to rush straight back into fatherhood. He's still thinking of his belly But this time, it's more about what he can put in it. He might have no teeth, but he's got an awesome suck when he needs it. Like many fish, he has no stomach. And the hapless shrimp is about to hit the fast lane through the seahorse's internal plumbing. Meanwhile, the offspring are learning to get their tails under control to hang on to anything they can reach. Stormy weather and strong currents can sweep them away, so finding an anchor is an important skill. Some choices are better than others. This way. No, this way. Lots of these babies won't make it to have big bellies of their own. But their cozy start in life and comfort in numbers take seahorse babies out of the running for the Aussie Battlers countdown. The baking arid centre of Australia may never see a snowflake. But off the southeast coast, the island of Tasmania gets an icy frosting in winter. This baby quoll may look as cute as a button, but Mum is a fearsome hunter, and she's off looking for supplies, leaving her 9-week-old babes in the den. It's only a week since these marsupial babes left Mum's pouch, and they're not used to being alone. The quoll's sharp eyes have spotted movement. It's this waddling wombat, a harmless vegetarian. But this is too much of a challenge, even for this ferocious carnivore. The wombat could outweigh her by over 30 kilos. And speaking of weight, a pigeon makes a more manageable snack for this tiger quoll. These ruthless hunters start life with a remarkably effective lesson in survival of the fittest. After only 3 weeks gestation, Mum gives birth to as many as 30 barely formed tiny offspring, which is nature's practical joke, because she only has a maximum of 8 nipples. If you're not first in the queue, well, the joke's on you. And life's over before it begins. Saying, "I could just eat you all up" to the kids is usually a term of endearment. But Mama Quoll's motto is, "Waste not, want not." Once she's disposed of the evidence of mass infanticide, she couldn't be a more attentive mum. When a passing tiger snake fancies a meal of baby quoll, Mum bars the way. Even this venomous predator recognizes when not to argue with a protective parent. 5 months later, baby quolls are using the forest as their playground, as they try out their moves on each other and practice a stealthy approach. Yeah, needs some work. But these infants are still mummy's boys and girls. Everyone's along for the ride, even when Mum's off hunting. And amazingly, she not only puts up with the clingiest babies in town, she even still manages to bring home the dinner. For starting life in a race to the death and scoring the most patient mum on the planet, baby quolls are the number 5 Aussie battler. The next babies go independent from the get-go. Stuffing their faces is their survival strategy. So far, the countdown has seen Aussie battlers clinging to Mum, popping out of Dad, and squashed by random strangers. This is not a land for the faint-hearted. The Australian environment has nurtured some of the world's deadliest animals, including the world's most venomous land snakes, the taipans. The coastal taipan is known for its long fangs and speedy reactions. This cold-blooded reptile is a fussy eater. And prefers its food to be warm. At least when alive. Its venom is a specialized neurotoxin, quickly lethal to the small mammals and birds that form the snake's diet. Fortunately, it's also extremely shy. So despite packing enough poison to potentially kill a human within 30 minutes, human casualties are low. Adult taipans are amongst the largest of Australia's venomous snakes, and males can grow to 3 meters. But they start life at a less intimidating 46 centimeters. And with a goanna on the prowl, this youngster is wise to keep out of sight. There's no sentimentality in snake world. This babe was on its own from the moment it left its cozy eggshell. It's born with the instincts it needs to hunt. And it's already armed with more than enough venom to take down a fully grown rat. You can't fault the taipan tot for its ambition. But without cutlery, dinner has to go down in one lump. Yep, definitely a case of eyes bigger than stomach. Even its incredibly stretchable jaw isn't going to help turn this rat into ratatouille. But the unlucky rodent wasn't living alone. And the baby taipan gets a whiff of something more promising. It already has the acutely keen sense of smell that enables these snakes to keep track of prey. These blind and hairless baby rats might as well be sugar mice for all the defenses they have against an infant taipan. Nothing is wasted at this all-you-can-eat buffet. And within a year, this baby will be swallowing the big boys. So, for its fearsome fangs and a gung-ho attitude, the baby taipan gobs its way to number 4 on the Extreme Animals Aussie Battlers Countdown. The warm waters round the Australian coast are home to the next pugnacious infant. Sand tiger sharks can grow to over 3 meters long. Females outweigh the males, and it takes a bountiful supply of seafood to sustain her voracious appetite. These sharks have a fearsome reputation, largely due to their extremely impressive set of gnashes. Humans may not be on the menu, but this is definitely a fish to treat with respect. Before they're even born, baby sand tiger sharks get a startlingly pragmatic introduction to the fish-eat-fish world out there. Fertilized eggs develop and begin to hatch inside the paired uteri. But there's no play fighting in this kindergarten. One baby in each uterus takes advantage of its head start by snacking on its siblings. The more it eats, the more it grows. And when there are no other hatchlings to chew, it devours the eggs. Eventually, there can be only one, or in this case, one in each uterus. For spitting in the eye of family ties and starting life with a stomach full of sibling, sand tiger sharks are the number 3 Aussie Battler Extreme Baby. With only 2 still to go on the countdown, competition is only getting fiercer as we get closer to revealing the number 1 Aussie Battler. From icy wonderland to burning desert, negotiating Australia's landscape and fierce climate is every little Aussie's first challenge. The next extreme animal baby prefers a coastal outlook. Flying foxes live around the north and east edges of the continent. The rich pickings of tropical fruits and foliage sustain one of the world's largest bats, with a wingspan that can grow to over 1 meter. And when not on the wing, like all bats, they take a rush of blood to the head, while viewing the world from a different perspective. Babies are born in summer camps that can number many thousands. And Mum sees no reason to give up her usual viewpoint just because she's giving birth. There's just one problem with this scenario. You've got to hope Mum's paying attention when you finally pop out, because there are no second chances if she misses this catch. How's that? The baby bat will go everywhere with Mum for the next 4 weeks. With nipples in her armpits, it doesn't pay to be ticklish. It's completely dependent on her to keep it safe from all the hungry mouths, eager for a succulent bat snack. Snakes and even goannas are always on the lookout for a bit of high tea. Hanging out on thin branches over the billabong might have seemed like a good idea for foiling predatory, tree-climbing lizards. But this could be a case of out of the frying pan. There are some things a baby bat just shouldn't see. They may have a hair-raising entry to the world, but their super protective mum means baby bats don't make the countdown. They don't come any tougher than the next Aussie battler. And when fully grown, they don't come much bigger. The saltwater crocodile can grow to be almost 7 meters of armored killing machine, and is one of Australia's most dangerous animals. This super predator regards virtually any animal in its territory as fair game. Frequenting coastal regions in the north of Australia, adult salties move easily between salt and freshwater. But the babies start life with a little less seasoning. When Mother Croc starts feeling broody, she seeks out fresh water. Females may be less than half the size of the males, but they still live life on a big scale, building nests of over 2 meters long. She has to get the mix exactly right. This giant pile of vegetation generates heat as it decomposes. And if it's too volatile or doesn't protect them from the elements, her eggs could be poached. While Mum sits guarding her compost-fueled incubator, the exact temperature is controlling the gender of the hatchlings. A constant, balmy 31 to 33 degrees produces boy babies, while girls are much less fussy, forming at both warmer and cooler temperatures. As soon as the babies are hatching, they start calling for their mum, who digs them out. Before Junior can ask for a hug, he gets an inside view of the world's most powerful jaws. Keeping very still is sensible, but she's just giving him a lift to the water. Not everyone is keen for a ride, but this is one mother you really don't argue with. You'd think being the offspring of the country's apex predator would swing the odds in your favor. But only 1 in 100 of these tiny terrors is likely to make it to maturity. And while it's easy to laugh in the face of danger while mum's around, it's a big mistake to forget that you're not the scary one. Chilling in the billabong works for the grown-ups, but for bite-sized babies, being lulled into a false sense of security can be fatal. And if the neighbors don't get you, the climate might. In times of drought, you don't want to be a stick in the mud. This adventurous baby isn't going to stick around to be a sun-dried hors d'oeuvre. Leaving home when you don't know where you're going is a brave move. But this feisty little fellow has decided that fortune favors the bold. And even at this age, no one's standing in his way. Just when this wallaby thought it was safe staying out of the water. Even this confident croc knows a wallaby steak is just a distant daydream. For now. Neither fire nor torrential rain can stop this battling babe. And after what could have been a journey of over 20 kilometers, a fast-flowing river offers a new home. With ensuite dining. For their hardcore attitude and punching above their weight, saltwater crocodile babies are a snap for number 2 on the countdown of Aussie battlers. Next, meet the supreme battling Aussie infant. The countdown of extreme animal babies of Oz saw Joeys bouncing into number 10. Goslings were on everyone's menu at number 9. While koala kids on cleanup duty slurped into number 8. Dingo pups went nose first into number 7. And camel calves were given the boot at number 6. Cute quoll kittens piled into number 5. While number 4 was swallowed whole by baby taipans. Number 3 saw gruesome goings-on inside the womb. And a giant attitude from a tiny infant put the saltwater crocodile babies at number 2. Tasmania is the last remaining refuge of the number 1 Aussie battler. This extreme baby arrives trailing a fearsome reputation, which it didn't get by skipping happily through a sunlit meadow. Now that's more like it. The Tasmanian devil is the largest carnivorous marsupial, and possibly the noisiest. And no one better get between these cantankerous beasts and their dinner. Hunters and scavengers, they'll eat almost anything that used to have a pulse. And given the chance, can eat almost half their body weight in 30 minutes. This apparently peacefully napping wombat is just the wrapping on a devil dinner. The Tasmanian devil invented Fight Club as a way of life. A good few rounds counts as courtship. She's unlikely to be keen on a second date. Like their nearest relatives, the quolls, Tasmanian devils take a survival of the fastest approach to giving birth. She produces up to 40 tiny embryonic babies no bigger than a raisin, who emerge into a life and death race for a victor's place at one of her forenipples. Having a bad hair day can be fatal. There are no second sittings for latecomers, and no one's giving up their place at this table. Once inside, the babies will stay clamped onto their feeding stations for the next 14 weeks as they slowly develop into recognizable little devils. At 15 weeks, they leave the pouch and practice running rings around mum. The baby's teeth will soon be coming through, but they'll still be suckling for another 2.5 months. And even this is tackled with their trademark ferocity. Ouch! By 6 months old, the siblings are venturing a little way outside the den to play and explore. Play fighting keeps the infants out of trouble and lets them practice the moves they'll use in earnest as adults. Well, maybe not this one. Affectionate licking doesn't really seem to be in the repertoire of your fully grown devil. Tasmanian devil mums are surprisingly patient with their extremely demanding offspring. She grooms them, provides an on-demand taxi service, and does the shopping for dinner. It's no wonder she needs a snooze. But everyone has their breaking point. And meal times are a magnet for family drama. Mum tries to grab a quiet bite. But at 10 months, her son is old enough to challenge her for the kill. And now he's growing up, he doesn't want to share. Mum's had enough and leaves the kids to sort themselves out. Outnumbered by her 3 brothers, girl power doesn't get much of a look in here. It's going to be every little devil for itself from now on. So, for being the noisiest, most argumentative extreme baby, Tasmanian devils screech into #1 on the countdown of Aussie battlers. Away from the family, this young female can't believe her luck. A whole wallaby all to herself. The appearance of a large male twice her size should send her packing. But this brave youngster isn't giving up without a fight. That's one seriously sassy baby devil. Even if her full threat display does have about as much impact as a gnat.